What is up, YouTube? It's your girl Evelyn, and as you can tell from the thumbnail and title of this video, today I woke up and chose violence. To be clear, the following movies are not unpopular or even obscure. In fact, many of them are critically acclaimed, but they just haven't seemed to impress the general viewing public. So I decided to make a video about movies that I love and y'all don't. Because y'all are wrong. Without further ado, please sit back, enjoy the video, and make sure to let me know which lesbian film you think deserves more love.
I wanna make $1 million.
Kajillionaire is a quirky, somewhat surreal dramedy about an emotionally starved and socially stunted young woman, her selfish con artist parents, and the woman who changes everything.
I'm Melanie.
Right, okay. Melanie, meet old Dolio.
Old what?
Dolio.
Old Dolio. Okay, I like that.
Kajillionaire has to be the most slept-on lesbian film of 2020. Granted, there was a lot happening in 2020, but it hurts my heart that a film as hilarious and touching and adorably romantic as Kajillionaire did not get its flowers. Now, some of you might be saying, but Evelyn, I watched this movie, and it was weird as hell. I admit, Kajillionaire is a little bizarre. The main character's name is Old Dolio. Her family lives in a rented office space that leaks pink soap bubbles, and she experiences a hallucinatory near-death vision quest in a gas station bathroom during an earthquake. Okay, it's a lot bizarre, which is probably the real reason Kajillionaire hasn't crossed over to a more mainstream audience. But if you're someone who skipped Kajillionaire because of the weird, I implore you to give it a shot. Because if a basic bitch like me can appreciate Kajillionaire's wonderfully strange surrealism, you can too. You can currently stream Kajillionaire on both HBO Max and Cinemax. The Secrets is one of those movies that flies under the radar for years at a time, every so often popping up on a best lesbian movie you've never watched but should really watch because it's amazing list. You know, like this video. The Secrets is a 2007 Israeli film about Naomi, a devout young woman who wants nothing more than to become a rabbi. But in her strict Orthodox Jewish community, women aren't allowed. So as a consolation prize of sorts, Naomi attends a women's seminary where she meets the secular Michelle, and the two girls go from adversaries to friends to eventual lovers.
חס ושלום. אבל זה אסור, בשום מקום לא כתוב שזה אסור. אני בדקתי. אני לא יכולה לבוא גם אם אני רוצה ואני לא רוצה. ואם אני אבוא זה יהיה רק כדי להרוס.
To me, it's pretty clear why The Secrets is not on everyone's top 10 list, and that's because it's kind of intimidating. The film is over 2 hours long, it's in Hebrew, and religious study and research are big parts of the plot. Also, neither of the Rachels are in it. For those of you who've been traumatized by the ending of certain lesbian films, you might want to consider skipping this one. Don't get me wrong, the ending's not tragic, but it's also not happy. The Secrets is a legitimately good, fascinating, and beautiful film. So if you enjoy your religion with a side of taboo and a dash of the patriarchy, you can currently stream The Secrets completely free on Tubi TV. I'm as surprised as you are that Benedetta is on this list.
Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Before I watched Benedetta, I expected to either hate it or fall asleep during it, but neither happened. Loosely based on the nonfiction book Immodest Acts, the life of a lesbian nun in Renaissance Italy, Benedetta is about a 17th century nun who suffers from religious and erotic visions. She also has a thing for the ladies. Well, one lady in particular.
Bartholoméa a-t-elle fait quelque chose qui vous ait fâché? Non. La détestez-vous pour quelque raison? Non. Avez-vous de l'affection pour elle?
If you haven't watched my Benedetta recap yet, you can check it out here. And the comment section of that video seems to be split between those of you who enjoyed the movie and those of you who couldn't finish it due to disgust.
I think they sent me to the wrong place.
I get it. Benedetta gives off the vibe of a serious and presumably tasteful art film, when in reality, it's nunsploitation. It's like if you're expecting a terrifying horror film, but instead get a self-aware drama about grief and isolation. Benedetta is a hilarious, kind of gross, and blasphemous film.
I don't understand really how you can be blasphemous about something that happened. It's true. Mostly.
Sure, Jan.
And while I appreciate the commentary on faith and sexuality and the church, more than anything, I appreciate the camp. If you haven't watched Benedetta yet, I suggest you lower your expectations, power up Hulu, and grab some popcorn, because
you've got a big storm coming.
Take a look at my body.
Right off the bat, I must admit to being horribly biased about Ammonite as a result of my deep admiration for Kate Winslet's acting. I've watched almost her entire filmography, even Jude, a horribly traumatizing film. I won't bother summarizing Ammonite because you've probably watched it, and if you haven't, I recapped it, so there you go.
Perhaps we might go out onto the beach this morning. Just take the air. If you think I'm strong enough.
Do you think you're strong enough?
I do, I think. Good.
You gonna make me act up.
Ammonite came out in late 2020 and received a lukewarm to cold reception from both audiences and critics alike. To be sure, some of that was probably due to 2020 being 2020, but I have a secondary theory. I think Ammonite was the unfortunate lesbian period film straw that broke the lesbian period film camel's back. WatchMojo called it Oscar bait, which it probably was. SNL heavily parodied it in a hilarious sketch, and silly little YouTubers made videos stating the obvious, that there seemed to be a disproportionate number of lesbian period films. And we won't even get into how Ammonite was directed by a man. People hate that shit.
Isn't that illegal?
Not to mention, the beloved Portrait of a Lady on Fire had just swept the world off its collective feet, reminding us all how much we love things like French cinema, classical music, and art.
Really?
Okay, I might be a little salty, but I just think Ammonite is a better film than people give it credit for. It's surprisingly funny, the acting is fantastic, and for a character-driven drama, I found it just as compelling as other films. I'm sure there are those who still wouldn't like Ammonite no matter when it came out, but the only lesbian period film I can think of with even worse timing than Ammonite is The World to Come, for a variety of reasons. I'm not ashamed to call Ammonite one of my favorite films of 2020, and if you've abandoned it from your watch list, I implore you to give it a chance while it's still available to stream on Hulu.
These are the reasons I drink.
Biopics have to be the genre of film that languish on more watch lists than any other. Sure, you've likely seen Gentleman Jack, Gia, or maybe even The Hours, if you're fancy. But what about Tove, Colette, Bessie, Reaching for the Moon, Quiet Passion, Vida and Virginia, Professor Marston and Wild Nights with Lisa y Marcella, of the Sexes, Violet. The point is, there's a good chance Can You Ever Forgive Me is somewhere near the bottom of your watch list, and my goal is to bring it up. At least 2 spots.
This has my number, well, the number of the store. If you're ever in the neighborhood and, want to get a drink or a coffee sometime.
Sounds good. I'd like that.
Can You Ever Forgive Me is a biopic about biographer, forger, and professional curmudgeon Lee Israel. High in vitriol and low in charm, Lee is the kind of person you hate to love, but you just can't help yourself. Somehow, you still want the best for her. Can You Ever Forgive Me is one of those quietly good films that feels more like an experience than a movie. While watching it, it was as if I was walking through a tiny bookshop owned by a cute mousy lesbian in 90s New York, or having a Scotch neat in a pristinely maintained 100-year-old bar. Unfortunately, as of the making of this video, Can You Ever Forgive Me is only available to stream on VOD, but this is the type of film that will definitely pop up on Canopy or Hoopla at some point, so be on the lookout. That is it for the list. I want to give a quick shout out to my newest patron, Dora D.
Baby, I'm amazed by you.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to let me know which lesbian film you think deserves more love, and I'll see you in the next one.